What's up YouTube? We're back at it again today. We're going to be taking a break from the Super Beetle project while we wait for parts, and I'm going to do a welding project that I bought recently for my fiance that I haven't had a chance to put together. So what I did was I bought this kit from a company called Precision Tube Laser. They were advertising this kit on Instagram, so I figured why not, I bought it. Essentially it's going to be a heart with an arrow through it that you weld together. So now I'm going to show you guys how I do it. So the first thing we're going to need to do is clean up all the pieces so that we can get ready to weld them. And then we'll probably also add like a chamfer on the edge just to make it easier to weld. And so I'm not going to go too crazy with cleaning these because they're not in too bad shape already, but I'm going to at least try to use like a flap disc or something to get any finish off the sides, because we're probably going to paint it to match her office in the house. I actually just remembered I have the Eastwood like SCT, which is like a surface finishing tool. So I'm going to try to give that a shot on all these because that might be the easiest way to get them all cleaned up. So the first thing we'll try is this SCT tool with the wheel it actually came with, which is pretty similar to like a steel wool. This actually came out really good with minimal effort. It's kind of hard to tell because there's some fingerprints already from me, but I'll clean it up with maybe some acetone or some alcohol before I actually weld with it. Alright, so we'll do the other 5 pieces. Luckily a lot of them are really small, but we'll get all these pieces done and then we'll move on to just, putting a quick chamfer on all the edges, and then we'll start tack welding it together. Okay, so the last thing we need to do before we tack these all together is put bevels on all the edges. This essentially just leaves us a place for the weld to go. I'll show you what the bevels look like once I've done them, but this is pretty common practice for just welding in general. So just for understanding, let's see if I can get this zoomed in. So here, it's going to be really hard to see, but this is a straight edge basically as how a piece usually comes off of anything like a table saw, bandsaw, just with a straight edge here. And you can see on this, we've actually grinded into an angle like a 45. And so what that does, these aren't actually made in pieces, but what it does is between those, it actually gives you an area where the material can go. Rather than being two straight edges, you actually have like a little channel. You have like a little channel that the weld can live in so that the material can actually penetrate. And penetration isn't super critical in these because obviously this is just a decoration. It's not really like a load bearing anything, but it's always good to practice these things for when you are working on a project that does need it. So we have one edge left to do, and then we'll be ready to tack these all together. The other thing I'm going to be trying out in all this is my Weldmonger TIG Pro Kit that I got. If you guys are into like DIY welding, someone really cool to follow is Jody. The actual channel is called Welding Tips and Tricks. And he's just got awesome stuff on learning how to weld anything from sheet metal, titanium, tubing, stainless steel, just all the cool stuff. And he actually has a website, Weldmonger, where he sells CK parts and a couple other companies, and he makes this kit. So I'm going to try out one of the new, I've never used a gas lens, which is supposed to be really helpful for just clean welds. So I'm actually going to jump right in, and I think what I'm going to do, I'm kind of torn. I think I'm going to try the Jazzy 10 out, which is just one of the many cups it comes with. So this is a Furic cup, I believe. It's a Jazzy 10, so it has this gas diffuser in the actual cup, and then I'll also use one of these gas diffusing, I don't know what the term for it right now, but this is basically where a nozzle, essentially a gas diffusing nozzle. So you kind of get two levels of diffusion. They just thread together and go on the end of your torch. So we'll try that out and get like optimal gas coverage. Again, this is kind of overkill for just like a decoration, but it's always good to practice. And this is exactly why I got this. This is kind of just a welding project to help practice. And it's just bonus points with the future wife that she's gonna happen to like it and probably decorate her office with it. All right, so now we'll start tacking it together so that it can start to take shape before we do any finish welding. You can see I got my Jazzy 10 cup with my little like stubby back end. I cut my tungsten in half basically so that I could have you know, the short back cap, make it a little more versatile. Okay, so now that we have everything all tacked up, I went ahead and did some test pass right here using the pulse settings and no filler rod, and it actually came out really good. So real quick, I'm just going to show you what pulse settings I use on my Alpha TIG. So we can see right here, it's turned off just for the time being. Get a good zoom on it. But we're using pulse, and so we're right around 3 for the frequency. The pulse amps are about 15%, and the pulse time on is around 33%. And I got these numbers from both Jody on weldingtipsandtricks.com and one of my old coworkers who's also really into TIG welding. So I would note these. This is for 60 thou material thickness. Generally the rule of thumb is to do 1 amp per thou, per 1,000th of an inch. But because I'm doing the pulse settings, I'm doing pretty much like 1.5 times that because the pulse is real short burst. And this is to keep heat and distortion down. So I'll show you this live now as I do the rest of the welds across all of these edges. And I'll show you the final product, but it seems to be working really well with where we did it. It looks like good coloration, good coverage of the gas, and also just, you know, no distortion. It's pretty low heat for the whole thing. Alright, so the only thing we really have left now is to finish the arrow for this. And the pulse settings actually worked pretty well. You can see, I'll show you one of the good ones that we got with no filler material or anything. Let's see. So pretty good. So now we'll try to do the arrow with no filler as well. The only time we had to use filler on any of these edges were actually just where I had burned through during tacking, or just not the best fit up, probably on my part more than anything, between the grinding and kind of the way I pieced it together. So we'll finish up the arrow and then we'll show you the final product. Alright, so thank you for joining us. That's where we're going to end the video for today. I appreciate everyone tuning in while we take a little change from our Super Beetle content that we usually have. We will do one more video on this because I still want to create a hanger and do a little prep and paint for it so that it's gold to match my fiance's office. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button, be sure to subscribe for more content, and see you again soon.